Welcome, everyone, to the Magus Athletic Training Podcast, where we talk to guests from the entire spectrum of athletic training, sports performance, and entrepreneurship in the athletic training space. Today's guest holds an associate's degree in theology from New Horizon Bible College, a member of the American Football Coaches Association, and has over 20 years' experience of coaching high school athletes. Please welcome to the Magus Athletic Training Podcast, Coach Willie. How you doing, Coach?
Good, Coach. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Coach Willie. Who is Coach Willie, for those who may not know?
I guess first off, I'm a family man. I been married for about 25 years. I got 3 kids, 31, 20, and 19. So everybody's pretty well grown up. I got 3 grandboys. They keep me busy. They're a big part of the reason how I ended up in Georgia for the last few years, getting a little closer to them. Pretty simple. I enjoyed coaching for the last 20 years. I kind of stepped away from coaching because I saw there was a void in the training field where you get a lot of kids that if they don't fit that that upper cream criteria, they tend to get lost in the shuffle a little bit, and they end up loving the game but not being able to play the game because they just can't stack up with the bigger kids. And I think with a little training, and a little effort, we can keep those kids. There's nothing wrong with the band. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of those kids end up, blowing the tuba when they could actually be out there on the field. If nothing else, they could be playing some special teams or contributing in practice, and they could enjoy the athletic experience that most of us were fortunate enough to enjoy. Yep.
Oh, wow. So, what got you into coaching? What was your career path into coaching? How did you get to where you are today?
Well, I played ball in high school. I managed to, I was a pretty good athlete. I managed to, I don't know if you want to call it squander or blow some pretty good athletic opportunities. I just ended up, I kind of chose I chose running the streets and hanging out and partying over the over football. And I guess my biggest thing now is, you always want to be careful of being caught up in that woulda, coulda, shoulda, where if I would have done this or I could have done that. And so a lot of times when I find myself coaching, I just want to see kids, and the athlete get the most out of everything. So that way they don't have to look back. They don't have to wonder what could have happened if they would have had I went on to college, or had I even played high school sports, or had I done this, had I done that. You can get the fullness of life early. You never want to find yourself in that range where that obedience is better than sacrifice. Because if you're not obedient early, you have to sacrifice later. So you want to get the obedience part early and not have to sacrifice later on down the line. So that way you can, like I said, get the most out of life. Enjoy it. For me, when I first started coaching, I had a nephew that was playing football, my wife's nephew, and the coach he had was just a ripping, shredding up the kids, cussing, screaming. And I get it. That's all part of the game for some coaches, but there has to be a rebuilding part of it too. And what he just wasn't. You can't tear it down and not build them up. You got to pour in the oil and pour in the wine a little bit, I guess. So
yeah.
So for me, I was in the stands at the time. I wasn't coaching, and I jokingly said to my wife, I think it was, if I ever coach, I think I can motivate these kids and build them up without having to yell and scream and tear them down. And it just happened that following year, one of my coach friends called me up and asked if I was interested in coaching, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll give it a shot. And wasn't a paid position. I didn't really think much about the stipend and all that. I just wanted the chance to coach, and it just kind of went from there. And I just fell in love with it. I found myself in positions where I could kind of pour into the kids some of the things that weren't poured into me when I was their age. The opportunity to for somebody to actually care a little bit. So and I was fortunate. I had some high school coaches that were really passionate and really poured into me. But but prior to that, that seventh and eighth grade year, I found myself in some places and doing some things that I probably could have avoided had I just had somebody to kind of pull my coattail. Dad wasn't around. Mom was raising had a full plate, raising. It was four of us boys. I had two older brothers, two younger brothers, so it was so she had a full plate with us. So it wasn't she couldn't give everybody the time and devotion that you would like for a gift. So for me, once I found football, it was kind of it's kind of an outlet. It got me out of the streets. And probably I tell kids now, I said, football probably saved my life. Because had I continued the way that I was going, I probably could have been in a whole lot more trouble than I managed to get myself into, without football. So
Exactly. For a lot of athletes, sports can be a safe haven for them. That is a place where they can find peace,
yeah,
find a sense of community, find a sense of belonging, find a sense of purpose.
yeah, absolutely.
And you spoke on or touched on quite a few different things there. And one of the things that I really liked that you touched on was we say it a little bit differently, but we're saying the same thing.
Hmm.
Sacrifice for what you love, because if you don't sacrifice for what you love will be your sacrifice.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you'll make the sacrifices of getting up early and training hard and discipline
Hmm.
and finding that consistency and
Yeah,
training and just working on a daily goal of getting better today than you were tomorrow at whatever sport that
absolutely.
you are. Because
Hmm.
if you don't make that sacrifice today, then tomorrow playing that sport will be your sacrifice because you won't be on
Yep.
that field,
You
you
won't
won't
be
be
on
on
the
that
field.
court,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So I find that to be something that translates across the,
Hmm.
the training facility into other areas of life and in actual all areas of life. You have to have the discipline to make sacrifices for the long term betterment. Um,
Yep.
so, and you talked about how you got into coaching was through another coach, just seeing and thinking that you could make an impact with some of the children and um, that experience of watching a coach, quote unquote, tear down an athlete, but not necessarily building him up, but still expecting
Hmm.
him to be able to perform. And
Yeah.
for some coaches, that works. For some students, that may not work. For some athletes, that may not
Mm.
work. You know, so I
Yeah.
think that there's a coach that I love, Brett Bartholomew. He has a book called The
Hmm.
Art of Coaching, and just
Okay.
knowing the different types of archetypes of the personalities that you're dealing with to know what
Hmm.
is going to motivate that particular athlete. So
Yeah.
for one athlete, tearing them down might work. For
Yeah.
another athlete, just being able to rebuild them and have some words of aspiration
Hmm.
may get him motivated, but just having the pulse on your athlete to know what's
Yeah.
going to get that athlete to be able to um, perform the best on that field, and just having
Hmm.
that influence on that athlete. But speaking of the influence on that athlete, who were some of your biggest influences um, in your career and how you approach coaching?
And I think number one, probably, and as strange as it may seem, it would probably be my mom. And it had nothing to do with football, just the fact that she was just a warrior. She her approach to things, like she raised a pretty good sized family on her own. We moved up north to Indiana, where I moved back down here from. I was about 3 years old, and she ended up and I think it was I graduated in 88, and she was diagnosed with cancer in 84. And the doctor gave her 6 months to live. My mom ended up passing away 1995. So
Wow.
she, it was strangely enough, she went from being, diagnosed with cancer, given 6 months to live, to ending up, living,
Another 10 years.
10 more years, and going back to work. Ended up with a pretty good quality of life for that after that diagnosis. I remember a good situation. I had a a guy that came in to do some of my financial aid work for school, and when he came the first time, she was in bed. She was kind of bedridden, still recovering and whatnot. And he came back probably about a year later, and she was actually, and he kind of came in the house and he was doing the paperwork, and he kind of sat there for a minute, and he goes, "Somebody needs to sign this paperwork." And I said, "Well, let me call my mom at work." And he just broke down into tears. He said, "Willie," he said, "I thought your mom had died." He said, "I didn't want to say anything." He said, "I came in the house, I saw the bed was gone." He said, I thought she had passed away." So that was just a moment for him, and it was a moment for me too, because I didn't realize the magnitude of how my mom had recovered from I didn't know, the whole, how severe cancer was. Now I do, over the years, since it did come back and end up taking her. But I just, for her to have that fight in her helped me out a whole bunch, and it gave me a little extra kick, a little extra boost for me. And coach wise, my defensive line coach in high school, Coach Lee, he was a real fire and ice kind of guy. He'd get you going. He would say things that, and we talk on Facebook often now. It's funny for us to have conversation, because he said, I told him, I said, "Coach, I thought you hated my guts." He said, I said, it was never a moment where we could just, from day one, we got into it about being 300-pound bench pressers. I was running the drill. He didn't like how I was running the drill. He said, "The only way you run that drill, the way you're running it and be successful, is if you're bench pressing 300 pounds. And you're not doing that." I looked at him, "Yes, I am, Coach." And that kind of started it with us, So he said, "Well, after practice, you're going to go find out." So I figured it'd be after the first. He waited till after the last day of two-a-days to take me in the weight room when I was burned out. So
wow.
And I got the 300 up. Don't get me wrong, but after that, he looked, okay, so he kind of laid off. But I had a linebacker that played behind me named Terry Burton, and we had a tendency to go maverick every now and then, and it drive him nuts. But we made plays, so it was like, hey, we'd come to the sideline after we done made a play, and me and him be kind of talking it out. Coach Lee would just look at us and kind of shake his head, and he would just say, "You guys are just full of crap." He'd say the other word, "You guys, you just drive me nuts." He'd walk away, but he loved it. He loved us, and and we would talk on Facebook, and he'd tell me how it was just great to coach, us guys, and because he was able to do things he couldn't normally do with other players, and but he'd say things to us. One day he made the comment to me I did something. He goes, "Well, I want you to take that back to the hood, because your mom may like it, but it don't fly here." Right. But it was weird because Coach Lee, he could say that stuff to us because we knew where he was coming. It was like we knew he was coming from somewhere that had some passion to it, and it motivated us to play better. Every coach can't say that. Now, we laughed one day on Facebook, because I said, "Coach, if you say that now, you'd probably be fired and in court somewhere," because a lot of these kids, the parents can't take that. It's just a different brand of kids, different type of vibe now, I guess. This different type of environment. Him being a white coach, and we didn't care back then. It was just it was football, and it was a guy, and he was an old bearded, grizzly looking man, and we loved it. I thought he hated my guts, but he loved us, and you could tell it was just something that always drew you to it. After the game, we would win. He had this play the game on Sunday thing that he would sing with the whole team, and it was just a great vibe. And I just I kind of fed off his style of coaching, because you can blow a kid all the smoke in the world, but you gotta come back and give him something. And he would always, no matter how hard he was on me, he would always come up to me. He may not say nothing. He might walk past me with a tape measure. He'd grab my arm, and measure my biceps. And yeah, I guess this might be a 300-pound bench presser. He'd say something that was encouraging on the slide, and I admired him. And I had two more coaches, Coach Wilson. Coach Wilson was an older guy. He was probably the first coach I coached under, actually. And we coached 7th and 8th grade football, and Coach Wilson was he was old school. He smacked the kid upside the head one day. I'll never forget it. But the kids loved him. He just had this thing about him, and he worked in the school too. So he was a security guard. So the kids knew him coming and going. So he told me one day, he said, Coach, he said, I'm tell you what. He had this little pouch he wore across his chest, and I don't know what he had in that pouch. He told me but he said he had a cell phone and he had his pistol.
Wow.
he said, I'm gonna tell you what, Coach, these kids are too big for me to try to fight. They'll kill me. He said, but I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. When one of them get ready to beat me up, I got my cell phone and my pistol here. And he said, I'm going to go, I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to get the pistol. He said, I'm going to get the cell phone to call my wife so she can get my bail money and the lawyer ready. And I'm going to get this pistol to get them off me.
Wow.
And I don't believe Coach would have did either one, but it was just weird. He loved the kids. It was just, and the kids just, gravitated to him all the time. And he'd tell them he hated every one of them. They just knew that Coach Wilson loved them. And just a great guy. We still talk now. Whenever I'm up in Indiana, if I ever get back that way, or we talk on Facebook, I still know his family and his kids pretty well. And probably last but not least was Coach Mitchell. Coach Mitchell had a way with the kids too, but he was he had a group of kids that he called. They had some weird nickname because they had something. They had a flyer going around the school. They were some little gang, and I forgot. But he had a way with the kids too. But we won a ton of games. The kids always respected us. We had a brand of kids that most coaches wouldn't coach because they were rough. they had a rough edge to them, and like you were saying earlier, you have to grade or kind of gauge how you coach a kid. Some kids respond great to the profanity. Some kids you gotta go up to them and you gotta say, hey man, I need you to get it going. You're being a jerk, or you just the future ain't looking bright. Whatever you gotta do to, but you can't. Some kids you can curse at. Some kids you gotta go up to them and hey, you may have to grab them by the arms. Hey man, look here. What's going on? Because you're not being a player I've been seeing. So we need to talk between now and before you get back in the game again. I need to find out what we have to do to get the player you're capable of being back on the field. But and that comes with knowing the player, build a relationship, and having something established where that player will respond to who you are. But like I said, everybody can't do that. One thing I've learned with coaching, as well as I do, is playing the game doesn't always translate into coaching the game. And a lot of times we get a lot of coaches that tend to think because they played, and I hear it a lot, and I think, and I don't knock guys for this, but I was talking with a guy last year, and he was just running down his resume to me. Played X number of years in the league, and I thought that was great, but he just wasn't a very good coach. And I didn't say anything to him. We just simply blew him up by about 35 points and went on about our business. So it was like, and it wasn't no, take this, your years and shove it, nothing like that. But it's like, that doesn't always translate into wins. A lot of times there's some passion. Will the kids play for you? A lot of times you got to, the kids got to follow you. You got to be a leader.
And a lot of that has to do with, a common theme that you said through all of these coaches is that no one cares how much you know or how much you coach until they know how much you care.
Absolutely.
So building that relationship with the athletes, with the children, to let them know, yes, I'm your coach. Yes, there are boundaries. Yes, I'm looking for a specific performance out of you. But beyond that, coaching is about building relationships, and building that relationship as a coach with an athlete. I think that there are three critical things that need to be present in that coaching, and that's you have to be transparent with the athlete. You
Yep.
can't come off as, hey, I know it all. Hey, I played in the league X amount of years. I did this. All that's fine. But your
Mm-hmm.
years are over, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
and don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's merit in that.
Yeah.
There's merit to
Absolutely.
that experience, right? But we all know that every year there's new rules. There's new nuances to the game. Things change, and being able to adapt to that
Yep.
is critical. But how do we take that experience of playing in the league, we'll say, 4 to 10 years, and translate that into being able to effectively communicate to an athlete to get him to
Yep.
perform, right?
Yep.
Outside of being transparent, just being vulnerable, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we're looking for our athletes to perform at a level, we'll say at level 10 every single time out, right? And
Yep.
we're asking them to do that almost in a vacuum. So we're
Mm-hmm.
asking them to block out everything else going on in their life for that 2 hours and just lock in
Mm-hmm.
and perform at your highest potential for those 2 hours. And the vulnerability of a coach coming in and saying, hey, I'm not having the greatest day.
Mm-hmm.
And XYZ is going on in my life, but I'm not going to allow that to affect my ability to coach you, my effectiveness of coaching you. But an
Absolutely.
athlete being able to see that transparency allows them to open up even more and be transparent with you and be vulnerable with you. And
Yep.
then lastly, just being authentic. You know, no, there's a saying that says that um, you were born an original, don't die a clone. You know,
I like
so
that.
just be you.
Yeah.
These kids can smell out when you're being fake.
They sure will.
They can smell out when you're just being a rah rah man. They can smell out when you're
Mm-hmm.
feeding them some
Yep.
horse manure. So
Yep.
just be you. That's all they're
Absolutely.
asking for.
Absolutely.
So um, you know, I just hear that common theme throughout that, building the relationship through you know transparency, vulnerability, and authenticity. So now that we're on to being transparent and authentic and vulnerable, what would you say was your greatest failure in your career?
I guess for me, and I don't know if I guess it would be a failure on a personal level. I was a correction officer for year and a half. Well, I left after about a year and a half, came back for about 6 months. And when I was, and I was walking, you walk through you got to do your walk through the jail and all of that. And when you see a kid that was around the age of the group of kids you coach, or you see a kid that you coached incarcerated, those are probably for me what I feel like were failed moments. Because the wins, the X's and O's, the wins and losses are going to come, coach. But a quick example. I knew a coach up north. He was had like a 31 game losing streak. Was on the verge of a couple more losses. It would have been a national losing streak. But we go to his practice one day, and he's got one of the greatest practices. Just kids enjoying themselves. Numbers were up, good numbers. Kids out there enjoying. Hadn't won a game. It wasn't a big circus act where you got kids kind of winging it. His practices made sense. You can tell that there was a method to his madness, but things just weren't clicking. It was just for whatever reason, and that just I was impressed with that. And when you have a coach that can keep it together, even in the midst of because we get so caught up in X's and O's, think okay, we could, I've seen situations where I had one year we went undefeated, but we had a group of kids, man, that when the football season was over, we didn't know what to, I was back, I was working. I didn't work in the school, so I was taking lunches and taking days off. and going to the school and finding out what's wrong with these athletes, because I'm getting calls from parents, and I'm getting calls from teachers, and you got such and such. We can't keep them in the classroom, and so I was taking time off work to go up to the school and say, hey man, you need to get it together. You got teachers telling me that all we're doing is winning football games. We're not putting out citizens. We want football players. We want good citizens too. You got to have. There has to be a good mix of both. You can't be out there winning games with a bunch of knuckleheads, for lack of a better word. And that just we just have to make sure that we stay on path. So for me, like I said, that would probably be a failure for me. I don't, I've had seasons where I've went 0-8, with teams, but it wasn't a failure to me, because it's like, okay, we finished the season with a good group of kids. They got through it. We had some kids grow. We had some kids play beyond themselves. We had some games that we were in. We probably could have won, but didn't for whatever reason. So so when I think about a failure, my failure would be, okay, what could I have done more for this young man? Could I said, he may not have been one of my kids position wise, but did I see a problem? A lot of times you can look at a kid, coach, you can look at a kid and okay, he may not be my position kid, but maybe just go by and say, hey, what's going on, man? Show him some love, give him some dap, give him a hug, and say, man, hey, talk to me if you need to, and then just walk away. You ain't got to be all deep. That's all they need to hear, because you'll get a kid that'll come to you later on and talk to you. I'll tell you a good example. I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but back my second year coaching, I had a young man, and this is probably the moment I really realized that coaching was so much more than X's and O's and wins and losses. We come out to practice, coach, and I talk to you. Like, absolutely, what's going on? I need to talk to you in private. So like, oh, okay, what's going on now? So he proceeds to tell me that he thinks he's got a baby on the way. This is an 8th grader. And I'm like, okay, okay. Hadn't told his parents, the young lady hadn't told her parents, they were both in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade or whatever. She was in 7th, I don't remember. I'm looking like, oh man, hey, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm just a football coach. I don't want to coach football, man. Why are you coming to me with this? I didn't say that to him, but I'm like,
yes.
So we ended up having to, I told the head coach, I wasn't the head coach. I told the head coach, I said, hey man, this is what I got. I said, I told the kid, I said, I got to tell the head coach. I said, I don't want to put myself in a situation where I overstep my boundaries and we all get in trouble. So I told the head coach what was going on. And he said, hey, man, if you feel comfortable talking to the parents and going with the kid to his house, I said, absolutely. So we ended up, it worked out. The young lady ended up not being pregnant, but we still ended up, it was brought to the parents' attention that their son and the other parent's daughter, they were, intimate. They were having sex. So it's like, so we were able to, get that out in the open. I don't know how they handled it from there, but at that point, I just knew it was more it was more than just football. It was a lot of X's, it was a lot of after school stuff, taking kids home sometime, dropping some, finding out why some kids aren't at practice. You go home, you go to some kid's house, knock on the door, this kid answers the door with babies crying in the background. Mom's working first and second, third shift. And he can't play football because he has to watch the kids, So now he's the man in the house, and he's 15 years old. So those are situations that are real.
Yes.
That a lot of times we forget that exists. This young man, I've had kids that brought their little brothers to practice. And I tell them, hey, if talk to your mom, she don't mind them being here. We can keep them where we can see them. So you can enjoy being a kid. So there ain't nothing worse than having to forfeit. And I wouldn't tell the moms this, but it's like, hey, at the end of the day, he didn't have the kid. It's almost like you're almost, and I'm careful how I say it, coach, but you're almost punishing this kid for a mistake that you might have kind of made, or not. Maybe not a mistake, but a situation that you created. You're punching this kid and you're robbing him of his childhood. So you have those situations like that right there, and you have to be careful, with your words, and you have to make sure that you're helping, That's the key. Make sure you're helping and not hurting. And if I've had to pay. I've had to pay for some physicals. I came out of pocket for some physicals, and these are them. Like, man, hey, I told one coach, I said half my stipend went to paying for some of these clowns physicals, man, and buying tennis shoes, not tennis shoes, but cleats, and so you find that there's so much more to coaching than just the X's and O's. And like you said earlier, there's a relational part of it where you have to and like you said, and I don't mean to backtrack so much, but kids gonna know when you're out there winging it. I would tell coaches all the time. I said, man, get your game plan. I said, man, because if you're out there and you're winging it, the kid's gonna know. They're gonna lose respect for you. They're gonna go maverick. They're gonna be out there on the field, and if they lose respect for you in practice, when you get on the field, it's gonna be double worse.
Yeah,
you'll never get them
that
back.
Respect is gone.
Yeah, it's gone. So you have to understand, because I always use the analogy that sheep will pee on sheep. Somebody's got to be the shepherd, man. So sheep want to, and sheep, like I said, sheep pee on sheep. So somebody's got to be the shepherd. So if they've mistaken you for a sheep, they want to pee on you, man. So you got, so you have to keep that separation of sheep and shepherd all the time, So, and like I said, a lot of coaches, they struggle with that, but going back to your question, I guess if I had to think about something I would consider a failure as a coach, that would probably be it. Where you always want, and there may have not have been anything I could probably do. I probably couldn't have done anything more to help that kid, but there's always that part of you that wants to think, okay, what could I have done? What could I have said? Because we all, I know for me, we all needed a second chance, sometime a third chance, sometime a fourth chance, and you can't throw a kid away. I have a kid now that, a friend of mine, her son went out to Florida on spring break, ended up in this big, basically just a mosh pit of violence. I don't know what you'd even call it, but just being a kid at the end of the day, and I told her, I said, she has to meet with the athletic directors and all that. And I said, what these folk got to do. He's great. He's actually a really good kid. Just got caught on spring break, probably, didn't know how to gauge. And I tell kids now, I said, you have to gauge the temperature of your environment. You can tell when stuff ain't right.
Yes.
There's always that there's that gray area where you can look and say, okay, I probably better get back to the hotel.
Situational
if your buddies
awareness.
if your buddies don't want to go, okay, I'm walking. But you have to get yourself out of that situation. You can tell when it's going bad. I used to be a DJ, and you could always tell when the crowd was changing. There was always that move in the crowd that let you know, okay, I need to start playing some type of music to start winding this thing down, get them out the door. Okay, it's not a last call, but I tell the owner, I'm telling you right now, get them out the door, get them to the cars, get them home. So you have to understand those environments. But yeah, but that right there, and Nick Saban made a comment one time when he said, you want to hang some of these kids out to dry for mistakes that they made. What would you rather have them doing? Would you rather have them on the field playing football, or would you rather have them out here on the streets, in mischief and doing things they got no business doing? They got a better chance. Yeah, you want to say, well, we give an athlete special privileges, a little bit, maybe, but he has a better chance on the field, giving a break than he has in the streets. And take it from experienced coach, hey, the streets are unforgiving, man. I came up out there, and I'm sure you know as well as I do. I came up on the streets, and the streets are unforgiving. They're very unforgiving, and it only takes a moment, for your whole life to change. So going back to your question, I guess that that failure would probably be that for me. I just from coaching, some coaches will say, well, this season of 1995, but not for me. For me, it's just when an athlete falls through the cracks, that's probably when I feel like I fail as a coach.
So at the opposite end of the spectrum of that question, what would you say was your greatest victory?
I guess for me, it just the opposite. When I'm walking around in a grocery store, or I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I hear a kid, yell out, Coach, Collier. And I turn around and this kid is standing there with his wife and he's got a kid or two and grocery shopping and he's found his place in life to where he's a productive citizen. He's doing the right things. He may not have been the best athlete, probably wasn't the best student either. He was that kid that people may have written off at some point. Because we adults, man, we forget that we were kids. And we haven't, and I've heard some adults, that kid's, he's headed for trouble. I'm like, hey, man, hold on a minute. You always been good? So that's the kind of stuff you want to ask. You've always been good? Probably not, man. So, hey, cut him some slack. And I've seen some kids in my mind. I'm thinking to myself, he's kind of a jerk. So it's like, so what do? You don't let a kid. You can't sign off on a kid. You just can't. You have to. You have to stay. You have to stay in. Stay positive. Even if in your mind you might be thinking something, keep in your head, because that one word you speak to that kid might be the one that could doom him. So I guess for me, when you can see a kid that rather, it doesn't always translate to Division I or Division II or the NFL. It may translate into this kid, who wasn't stable his entire life, will come out of a broken home, just finding stability, finding his place in life, not in trouble, not out here, knocking folk upside the head, robbing liquor stores, and not sitting up in the county jail. That's victory, man. That's victory. Especially the way life is now. That's victory. Stability is victory. So yeah. So I guess for me, that's probably, that would probably be, one moment. I would love. I never won a state title, but we went down state one year. It felt pretty good, but you know how the game is played. What have you done for me lately? Exactly. As soon as that season starts, that thing goes away, man. You turn around and because that following season we went from I think 11-2 or 12-2 to freaking 0-9. We graduated a ton of seniors and we fought through it, man. You talk about every game was a we were in them. We just couldn't turn the corner on a bunch of them. So it's, so that you can't, like I said, you would love to count, great moments as wins and losses, but at the end of the day, man, that's, are you coaching to build kids or coaching to build programs? And if you're coaching to build a program, man, you're just not doing, you're doing the coach industry a disservice.
Yes. So right along those lines, in 3 words or less, what is your greatest strength and what is your greatest weakness? In 3 words or less for both.
Love for kids.
And your weakness?
Love for kids. Boy, I'd almost say love for kids because you have to. Because my love for kids has gotten me, got me in a ton of trouble. But I've I've had situations where I've gone to bat for kids and it's blew up in my face, man. And that kid, turn around and do something else really stupid. And I got people that wanted to be right about the kid, and now they're right. And it's like, so I guess, love for kids would probably be, I know that's definitely my strong point, but weakness would be, I guess it'd be love for kids. It's kind of a 2-edged sword for me because it's like, you want them to be great. Even my own kids, you want them to be great. You want them to do things right. My youngest daughter's down at Georgia Southern. She goes to school down there. My oldest daughter she's in the Air Force. My son, he's in between. He's just trying to find his way through it, man. It's tough sometimes.
I hate to tell you this, Coach Willie. I hate to tell you this. But as a Georgia Panther, you're speaking to, is Georgia State not Southern? Georgia State not Southern.
Okay.
So what's next for Coach Willie?
I guess my plan. I'm hoping to the season's going to football season's starting up. Things will start slowing down for me a little bit. I got to work on me some. That pandemic and everybody being closed in. There was probably a few more pounds than I wanted to add to myself.
That's all of us.
Yeah. So I want to work on me. Definitely grow the business. Growing the business the right way. I have a ton of coach friends, a ton of guys that do training. My one good friend, he does training, and they just we want the D1 athlete, and I wouldn't say we, but that's what we want to put out there. Everybody wants to be able to, they want to be coaching always. We want to always be training or coaching that kid that's going to
Division One,
Power 5, a Division 1 Power 5 school. For me, give me the kid that's probably about 5'11", 5'9", 5'10" or whatnot. May not be the biggest kid in the bunch, may not be the biggest kid in the line, but let's build that kid where he can compete with those D1 kids, where he can make, if nothing else, we'll have the coach screaming at that Division 1 kid, trying to figure out why this Division 2 or NIAA kid is whipping his butt every down. That's my goal there, coach, is to build a kid that nobody's really paying attention to. In the off season, let's get in the laboratory. Let's put a program together that we can make you the better athlete coming in the next season.
So right next to your laboratory is the library, as I like to say. What 3 books are in your library that you recommend that any coach should read?
For me, I got one book called The View of the Offensive Line. It's by a guy named Howard Mudd, and he's got I forgot the other author. A great book, great read for any offensive line coach, any football coach, period. I had another book called it's called Think and Grow Rich. It's by a guy named Napoleon Hill. And it's it's not so much a sports book as it is just a life book, life change. I tell you, there was a great story in that book where he had he talked about a warrior that took his tribe, that took his people to battle, and they went out and they went out, they sailed out to an island, and before they got ready to battle, the leader said, sink the ships. And so they sank all the ships, and he basically told them the only way that you're getting off this island is if you win the battle. So the moral of the story was sometimes you have to exhaust all avenues of retreat, and it makes you fight different. It makes you respond different to adversity. Yeah. So, and I use that with a lot of kids now, and probably the third book is had another guy named Darren Hardy. I believe Darren Hardy. He has a book called The Compound Effect. And it's a great book. It talks about gaining momentum in life. And, I have a few books by Lou Holtz and different ones, but those are the 3 that really, helped me to press, because things I've been through these past 6 years. I told you my wife had a stroke about 6 years ago. So I found myself having to press a lot harder to get things done, because there's just so much coming in different directions with wife, kids, and grandkids, and just so it's just so I try to find books that help me press forward, press forward, stay forward. Yeah.
And is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to share? Because I have one other thing that as this podcast host, I am so sorry. I was working hard on that introduction, but I forgot to include, ladies and gentlemen, that Coach Willie is also the founder and owner of Iron Sharpens Iron Fitness. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
For me, our goal with that is to we cater to the athlete that's inside all of us. There's an athlete inside everybody, whether it may not be the great, that's going to hit the high hurdles, but we can all call in an athlete inside of us to be great in our own books. And for me, football, all sports build character. Football, for me, you can get the highest of highs and the lowest of lows all in one quarter, sometimes all in one down. You can be the
sometimes
hero,
all in one play.
Yeah, you can be the hero, and you can be a bust. Everybody will love you 1 minute, and they'll be putting signs in your yard the next, trying to sell your house, man. So we know how that thing goes. And I guess for me to grow the business, when my son was in high school, we would go to football camps. A lot of parents, and I realized a lot of parents couldn't afford to send their kids to these camps. So what I done with Iron Sharpens Iron Sports is I make it affordable, for the parents that can't. I have a few people that'll sponsor kids. The parents can afford to pay the training. So, and I have some parents that ran through some financial hardships. I say, bring your kid anyway, or how come, when let's keep training. We're not going to let the financial side of things stop us from training the kid. That's my goal is really to make sure everybody has a chance to be trained and have a chance to compete. Because, like I said, I don't, I've seen so many kids that just don't have that, but a little training, now all of a sudden they become competitive. Some become great, but that doesn't happen if we can't get them in a position to get the training. So I guess for me to just really try to make sure that we can reach everybody. Everybody has a chance to get to us. So we want as one man sharpened as another, iron sharpens iron, and that's what the goal is, to make sure that we're that each one reach one. We can get a hand on everybody, and folks get, hey, this life is meant to be enjoyed, Coach. And we want to give folks a chance to enjoy it. Whether it be through sports and watching sports, playing sports, and it's a great avenue. It's a great chance to build character. I know for me, we talked about earlier. Hey, you take away football, I'm not sure if I'm sitting here in front of you. We may not be having this conversation. If we are, we're probably having it from behind a wall, from behind a wall somewhere.
Gotcha.
And that's not what I want for kids. That's not what I want for for adults. I want to see everybody live their best life possible. Get some joy out of it. We've all been through a lot because of this pandemic. So it's like, hey, let's enjoy life, man. Shoot, let's get something out of it. It's taking enough from us.
So speaking of enjoying life, I share with you that one of the main purposes of our podcast here is to actually build community.
Mm-hmm.
There is strength, there is power in community. So let's build our athletic training, sports performance, strength and conditioning community. So one of the ways that I want to build that is that I would like to build that by us seeing on this podcast people who have touched our lives, influenced our lives, or people who we just want to see, right, that we follow. So my question to you is, who should we interview next?
Somebody I know personally, or just anybody?
Doesn't have to be anyone you know personally. It could be, hey, I want to see you. I want to see you interview the strength conditioning coach for the New York Giants, or whoever. So who would you like to see interviewed?
I forgot the guy's name. Now I do have a good friend up north that I think this would be a great opportunity for him. He's a guy named Matt Adams. He's been coaching as long as I have. We played ball together in high school, and just you have those friends that just kind of stick with you. He's one of those that kind of stuck with me. But I know the strength coach at Georgia Tech that one year. I'm not. You may have already had him on the show. I can't remember his name, but the strength coach over there,
Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
the older coach.
I think it was the older guy. Yeah.
Are you talking about John Sisk?
Is that was the guy that was he actually put? Yeah.
He was at the Hammer Strength Clinic.
Yeah.
That's John Sisk. He is on the list already. But thank you so very much.
Yeah. I think it'd be great to have him on there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So he would definitely be a pleasure to hear. But it just I'm always looking to gain knowledge. I'm new. One thing I've sat with a lot of guys, and it's tough to sit. I enjoy you, Coach, because your humility speaks for itself. You're very humble. You're very sharing. You sent me those books, and I'm like, man, so I forgot the first one you sent me. I think I went on Amazon and looking for that, but I'm going to get it.
I do believe that was the very first one was strength and conditioning of college football. the NSCA
Yeah.
version. I think
Let
that
me see.
was
I think I got it.
Gambetta.
No, warm-ups. The warm-up. It talks
Warm
about
up.
the warm-up.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get that. But just I will. My biggest thing is I want to get a network of guys that don't mind sharing. The thing, I have a few guys, that I'm really hoping to get a chance to meet with. Some other guys, some line, some line training guys. But it's kind of it's really amazing. I've reached out to a few of them, and I know they're busy. But you hear a lot of testimonies about how when you were first starting out, people didn't really want you couldn't get this door to open, that door to open, and that's So I'm like, okay, since that happened to you, I shouldn't have a problem at least getting to sit down with you. So it's like, I'm still waiting. Like I said, these guys have got busy schedules just like I do, so I keep I'm like the it was the old lady who just kept begging the king, and then he just finally gave her what she
Yes.
wanted. This hey, guy, go on, you bother me. So that's me. So I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure that that whatever kid I touch is going to be more than just it's more than just training. We're also like I said, we're building lives. And we're impacting. I was telling the kid yesterday during training, we were talking. I said, well, it's almost like you run in the pack. You got to decide where you're going to be in that pack. If you're in the back, chances are you're the first to get killed. So it's like, and if you're in the front, you at least see it coming. You're the leader, and you got a chance to fight it off. But never get comfortable in the middle of the pack. I said because number one, yeah, of course you got a great chance of survival, but you never grow, you never advance, you become mediocre at best. So you always got to press to the front. You always got to press to the front because that's where all the action is. That's what everybody sees. Nobody spends much time in the pack. You know from coaching football, the game don't start until that guy, that running back while he's all in there and he's busting through. When he gets in the open, that's when the crowd goes wild.
Yes. Yes.
But when he's in the pack, you don't see it. So I tell these kids, hey, man, don't get in that pack. Don't run. I got a kid now. He does some. I'm doing some linebacker and some D line work with him, but he wants to be a quarterback. I'm like, that's great. I said, man, but you're finishing the sprints last. I said, quarterbacks are leaders, buddy, and you can't. You just don't. And then when he can outrun somebody, he doesn't because he wants to make sure that I can't see him. I'm like, so it's like, hey, you got to get out there and you got to press. You got to press to the front. Like I said, that's where the action. But when you find yourself comfortable riding in the middle of everything, you just don't grow. You just end up hiding for the rest of your life, and those things carry over into your adulthood. And people and kids don't think so, but I tell them, I said, if you do enough of something with me, it'll start happening on Mondays at practice, Tuesdays at practice, Wednesdays at practice. Now it's happening on Friday. Now you're out there taking off plays, and you're gonna take off that one play. And film don't lie. Film don't lie. You're gonna take off that one play, and it's like, okay, coach, okay, come on over here. I got a spot for you, and you ain't got to worry about losing this one. It's gonna be right on the sideline.
Right on that bench.
Have a seat. Take your pads off. You don't need those no more. So, and you don't want kids in up there. Yeah, some kids. I've met some kids that want to just be on the team and then want no parts of the field. I had one kid tell, I'm good, coach. Huh? What? You don't want to play? Oh, I'm good, coach. Okay. He just enjoyed and it's okay. He enjoyed the camaraderie of being around his friends. He practiced hard. He didn't want to party Friday night. And I think he was, do you kick him off the team because you don't want to go in the game on Friday? No. He knew he wasn't very good and he was okay with it, but he was a practice kid. He was that kid that just loved to be out there with his buddies. He wasn't a distraction. So I'm like, hey, have at it. Have a seat.
So I'd like to thank you for this opportunity and this time to sit down and talk with us. And lastly, you talked about your social media, Facebook. So where can people find Coach Willie at online?
No, I have a website. It's Iron Sharpens Iron 12 at yahoo.com. Also, they can reach me at, area code 574-309-7383. I'm always available. I'm working on a facility. I'm mobile right now, so if they're somewhere, I can come to them. We can put together. I usually start with the pretty strong assessment, see what the athlete needs. We're not going to just get out there and just, put a jump box out there and start doing plyometrics and hammering the kid out. It's not a session where we're looking to wear you out. Of course, you're going to get tired, but we want to make sure that we're getting better. That you're the best athlete possible. So yeah, basically those two sites, they can reach me. I'm like I said, I'm very accessible. So if they if you got somebody that wants training or knows, a lot of times if there's something I'm not sure about or I'm not sure with the athlete, I'll reach out to my coaches. I'll reach out to you, coach. I'll reach out. I think we had spoke about I had a track kid. I'm like, hey, I got this kid that runs track. I got this kid that runs track, and he and his daughter runs track. And to make sure that he's that he's aware. So. And that he's aware that that I want to make sure because I can get him out there running up and down the field all day long, but it's like, hey, I want to make sure that we're sport specific when we have to be. So yeah, and not so that's basically and like on my website, my numbers on there also where they can reach me. Along everything from my mission statement, you name it, it's on the website, and they can we just kind of go from there. That they we make sure they're getting my goals and make sure we're getting the best service possible. Because I know a couple guys, and I think we had a conversation that their parents are really taking a beating from some of these trainers out here, and they're really taking thanks. I don't want to I don't want to like I'm letting I'm not gonna let anybody have it, but it's like I tell you gotta do what's best for your kid. Do what's best for your kid. And just because that guy is charging $200 an hour, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's doing what's best for your kid. So, parents do it. They're going to do what they're going to do. So, but that's the best way. Like I said, website and my number, they can reach me, and we can figure out a schedule and kind of go from there.
Not a problem. So I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. And everyone, thank you for your time watching our podcast here at the Magus Athletic Training Podcast. Please make sure to like, share, and to subscribe to our podcast so you get all the notifications of all our new shows. Thank you very much. This is Coach Lay. We're out.